Hey, welcome back to our program. Uh, we've heard so much about the fact that Black Lives Matter, and then the recourse is that all lives matter from so many people saying, well, you just shouldn't center on African American lives. And African Americans say, well, yes, but there seems to be a vendetta against African Americans. And when I look at what's happened in the past 3 or 4 weeks, I wish I were optimistic, and you got to stay optimistic. But I kind of wonder, do any lives matter? When someone tells me, well, Black lives matter. Black lives don't matter if you live in the inner city and you're a young black male shooting another black male, and that happens not just monthly or weekly, but almost every day. Go down to New Orleans. It's a war zone down in New Orleans like right now, where Black lives don't matter. Too many African Americans are killing other African Americans. So that's a focus that no one wants to talk about. Police officers' lives, do they matter anymore? Look at what's happening in this country today. Houston, Texas, we saw the terrible situation in Harris County of the African American who came up and shot the unarmed police officer. You know, hands up, don't shoot. That applies to police officers as well as some of the terrible killings involving police officers. I don't diminish any of that. I can give you so many. We've got up in Illinois right now, Fox Lake, Illinois. You've got a police officer that's killed by 3 men, 2 white, 1 black, not bringing the racial tones into it. It was both sides there. They can't find those 3 people that killed a police officer, mowed him down in cold blood, did not have a gun on him. Down in my home state of Louisiana, 23% of all the police officer killings that have taken place in this country this year have happened in the state of Louisiana. We heard about Sunset, Louisiana, where the police officer goes up. This is a small town north of Lafayette, Louisiana, in the center of the state. A police officer goes up to a home in a disturbance. The relative knifes to death the one lady there and then shoots the police officer, kills the police officer in Sunset, Lake Charles, Louisiana. Police officer pulls the guy off on the side of the road, routine stop. The guy kills him with a shotgun. Didn't have a gun on him. So police officers' lives don't matter. I could go several more with you along those lines in terms of what's happening with police officers. And so you've got to wonder the tension in this country. We have a lot of emotional problems. We have someone who wants their 15 minutes in fame, the whole selfie idea. You got to have a selfie. You got to make your statement. The terrible killing of those 2 TV young folks, the young lady that's on the air and her cameraman, and the fella that kills them both has to do a selfie and has to do a video of the whole thing. So he gets his 15 minutes in fame. Now, the guy had mental problems, as did a number of these killings. But we see time and time again, the gun nuts, oh, don't take my gun, don't take my gun. And I understand that. I'm of the background coming from a rural part of Louisiana where a gun was important to you. There were no police officers where I grew up, where I raised my 3 daughters. You had to have a gun for your own protection. I'm not inferring we should change that. But if someone is brought in with serious mental problems, is committed, or even detained for some period of time, then I think the burden shifts at that time. I think the burden shifts on you when you have been charged with a crime, a serious crime involving damage, not white collar, but the serious crime and causing any kind of endangerment. The burden ought to shift then on you to prove that you have the resources and you have the mental capacity to own a weapon of some kind. So, I saw a big thing now is, you know what the hottest selling weapon is on the internet right now? It's a flamethrower. You can buy a portable flamethrower that goes 200 feet and mow people down with a flamethrower now. What kind of defense is that going to be in our movie theaters and all the other areas we try to protect ourselves? So we've got to have a serious debate about who has a gun. And if you're a normal, law-abiding citizen, that's fine. You should not only you should have a gun. It's not your privilege, it's a right, and I understand that, and I stand firmly for that. But if you look at the killings that took place down my way in Lafayette, Louisiana, in the movie theater, you look at this deranged guy who did the killing up in Virginia, the 2 people we talked about on TV. Those people had a history of mental problems. They've been taken into court for those mental problems, and at that stage, you shouldn't be entitled to have a gun. Law enforcement, we can't have stop and frisk anymore. You know, New York City is one of the safest places in the country. I've got a lot of family in New York. My oldest daughter, my wife has been living in New York a good bit to take care of grandkids, nieces, and nephews. I fly up there a good bit. I don't feel as safe in New York as I used to be because they instituted stop and frisk. Police officers actually profiled you. They thought you were in a heavy area where there was crime. You'd be stopped and frisked. I think that's a right that you have that should be limited a bit because you decide to live in a metropolitan area where there's high rates of crime. So we've got, and look, you're talking here to a big free liberty guy that says the government is too much involved in our lives. But when it comes to the personal safety of my family, my kids, my grandkids, my nieces and nephews, we're going to have a balance right there. A serious problem in this country. And again, I say, if you ask me, I'm not sure that any lives matter. And that is a darn shame. That is really tragic. I'll be right back.